What's up, War Report family? It is your boy C Dub. We are 6 days from A-Day. So we want to know, what are the 5 things we hope to learn from A-Day Scrimmage? Mike G, Ike Jones, and B will join me to weigh in, and we definitely want to hear your thoughts on the latest edition of the Weekend Tailgate.
You are now listening to a War Report Weekend Tailgate, brought to you by
Athletic Architect.
It's your boy, Ike Jones. Be Will, C-Dog, Mike G. Get ready, sit on back as we bring you the War Report Weekend Tailgate.
Happy Sunday, everyone, and welcome to the Weekend Tailgate, brought to you by Athletic Architects. Guys, one of the best ways that you can support the War Report is to support those who support the War Report. So please be sure to visit buildthehouse.com. Send the link to whoever has an LLC idea, a student athlete, or someone who's related to a student athlete who's hoping to prepare and plan for their financial success in the future. Athletic Architects can definitely get you there. Much love to them. We appreciate them for supporting the War Report. We appreciate you guys for hanging out with us on a Sunday. We'll also appreciate it, because we're having a great discussion, if you share this content on social media. That is Facebook and Twitter. Use the hashtag, even at us on those social media platforms. On the YouTube platform, it'll help us out tremendously. And you're already here because you're watching the video. Hit the like button, y'all. Help us with the YouTube algorithm, and subscribe if you're new to the channel. Now, Ike Jones. Who? Ike Jones has been working in the off season, putting together some dope content, and here's how you can access that content.
Well, it's really easy. There's a join button. You click it and you decide what level you want to join. Now, what level you join determines what perks you get, but we appreciate all of the people who continue to support us financially every month. Go ahead and join. $5.99 gets you to patron level. A lot of great film review. After A-Day, we going up. So y'all need to be ready. Go ahead and get those memberships. If you are a member and you want someone else to have the pleasure of getting 1 month free, this would be a good month to gift it to them, because we're going to have that A-Day film cranking out for y'all. So make sure that you get your memberships ready. If you are a member and you want to gift some memberships, go ahead and do that. Couple Greatness is on its way to somebody today. You're going to hashtag Get Your Weight Up right now in the live chat to be eligible to get that. Hashtag Get Your Weight Up, sponsored by GWT2 Energy Consulting Services. Our guy, Walt Taylor, we appreciate him as always. Make sure you go ahead and get your hashtags in. We'll be doing that drawing around the 1 hour mark. And then, you know what I'm saying, like audio stuff, right? Podcasts. Get up on that. The Auburn Express, man. We got some beautiful things coming for you all on the podcast. A lot of great features that we want to get out there to you, man. So make sure you're locked in with what we got going on there.
Guys, listen, we are 6 days away from seeing a new look Auburn, a new day, a new era, a new coaching staff, new players on this team. We've been talking about this for quite some time. I mean, we've been talking about football all off season. So it's going to be fun and exciting to actually see some actual football. Even though it is a scrimmage game, it's going to be good to see new look Auburn. Your thoughts on that, gentlemen?
Of course. It's back. I mean, for a minute, it's back. It ain't all the way back, but it's back. And I don't have to, I want to say I don't have to. We don't have to collectively do all this guessing about what type of progress the QBs are making. We will get to see what type of progress the QBs are making. Not that I think this will make any decision definitive about who the QB will be going forward, but I want to see that these guys got better. I want to see that Holden Gardner got out there and operated the offense and didn't just get some, hey, kind of do this base stuff and bail us out, which it will be, but I want to see if his confidence has come to the level. I want to see if TJ's intermediate accuracy has gotten better. I want to see if Robbie is healthy enough in his shoulder to look good throwing the ball. I want to see all that, because I think that's still the biggest question mark on our roster. Who is the QB, and can he get us going efficiently? So I'm looking forward to seeing some action to answer that, instead of just trying to glean it from questions to the coach every Monday. Action. It's time for action.
Ike, thoughts, my guy?
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I think for me, I'm going to be looking mostly at just kind of how the offense is set up, right? Like, is how similar it is to some of the stuff that I've seen on film from both of these guys in the past. Defensively, I'm going to look to see how assignment sound they're playing out there, making sure that they kind of understand how they're supposed to be rotating in certain situations. They've seen a lot of this stuff in practice already, so it shouldn't be new to them. They should have that down, right? So I'm looking to see how they do that. And then I'm looking to see how they distribute reps to people, right? Like, are we going to get an opportunity to see everybody get out there and play for A-Day, get some good scrimmage reps in, and then kind of how they distribute those reps, not just at the quarterback position, but all around linebacker rotations, defensive back rotations. I want to see all of those things and see what we got in the cupboard.
IG, how you feeling, man? What are your thoughts about A-Day just 6 days away?
Given what Coach Hugh Freeze has said about the potential format of this, because he kind of mentioned it, but I don't think we really know what the format solidly is going to be for A-Day. With possibly the defense starting with a lead, maybe you want to see a shutout.
That's when you want to see a shutout,
right?
Shutout for the defense, right? I mean, because if they can't score, then the game just keeps going in this format until they can catch up. So yeah, I just want to see. I want to see guys look assignment sound. I want to see playmakers emerge. I think that's one thing that we can always glean from A-Day is that. Is there going to be a playmaker that can emerge? I think that's easiest to judge at wide receiver and at quarterback. Running back just kind of is what it is. On defense, I think you can see playmakers emerge, certainly in the defensive secondary. That's hard on D-line when you can't really hit the quarterback, but you can see if guys are getting off blocks and beating their guys. So, yeah, it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see how who emerges as a playmaker. Who gives us the wow? That's like, wow, that guy's super athletic, or wow, that guy, is way better than we thought he would be. I saw some articles about like Robert Woodyard kind of coming into his own. This is a guy we flipped from Alabama, right? And we need help at linebacker. So, is he going to be one of those guys, those names that we heard about? B had mentioned on a morning drop or on a previous segment we did about where is Austin Osbury? Right, this was a guy who was a highly touted get from LSU. That we stole away from LSU. Is he going to emerge? Is somebody going to emerge? We're hearing things about Ken Lee. I'm just excited to see it in action because this will have been the biggest game a lot of these guys will have played in to this point in their career. Yeah. Right. And I'm a big believer in that A-Day is a good pretest kind of for how guys will perform under the lights. So there's some stuff that we can take away from this. It should be exciting. It's something new. And Coach Hugh Freeze, man, the quarterback whisperer. Let's see, man, were you able to, in just 15 practices, able to get one of these guys to step into the role of looking like an SEC quarterback?
Well, we have 5 things that we kind of discussed this off air, but there are 5 things we are looking forward to seeing and learning from this A-Day scrimmage. Doesn't mean that we will learn it, but these are 5 things that we're going to be keeping an eye out on. Now, Hugh Freeze did make a mention before spring even started that there's no depth chart. Now, just because there's no depth chart doesn't mean that they're not evaluating these guys and determining who's going to be able to help them in the fall, right? Correct. We already saw 2 guys already hit the portal as spring practice was going on. So these conversations are definitely happening throughout spring. But what we want to know, and I'll start with question number 1, gentlemen. We're going to start with the defensive side of the ball. Who's starting on this defensive line? That's going to be a question that I'm eager to see because over the offseason, Auburn added former 5-star Justin Rogers, who transferred from Kentucky. He's now in the fold. We've heard some positive things about him. Also, Auburn added Mosiah Nasili-Kite. I believe he was the Maryland transfer from the defensive line. Zacchaeus Walker came but returned to Auburn out of the transfer portal. So we've got some bodies there. We've been hearing things about Jeffrey Emba as well this spring. He's appeared to have taken the next step. I'm curious to see who they tried out there along the defensive line for the first team. Thoughts on that, Ike Jones?
Who I think is going to be, or you're just saying just in general about the defensive line?
Just in general about the defensive line, but you can give your thoughts as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we've got an experienced group up there, which is good. I think we've got some big bodies up there that know what they're doing. It's going to be interesting to see just the progression that they've made as far as understanding what to do in this defense. Because if you guys are patrons, then you can go back and watch. We looked at some of the Ron Roberts film from a couple of games from Oklahoma State and Oklahoma when he was defensive coordinator at Baylor, and just the way that specifically that nose tackle kind of dictates a lot of what's happening up front. It's going to be interesting to see who's playing the nose. I'm going to assume it's going to be a rotation between guys like Jason Jones and Justin Rogers are going to probably be, anchoring the middle of that defense at that nose position. Defensive end, we've already heard Jeffrey Emba's getting kicked out that way. You got Marcus Harris that's still available out there. We already talked about Nasili Kite coming over from Maryland. There's a lot of guys up front that can do some damage. Looking forward to seeing how they rotate them, which position they're playing them in, and then just kind of how naturally they progress through what they need to do in their assignments.
Be Will.
I think it's going to be very difficult to keep Justin Rogers, Jason Jones, and Marcus Harris off of the field because they're all experienced and they're all big guys. Marcus Harris he's been a holdover. He's quietly. We got a guy who was a 2-star recruit coming out of high school, who was at Kansas, who was at one point the barren wasteland of college football. And he comes here and he gets better each year. And now I think he's a guaranteed starter on our defensive line. Now, what they want to do with the size bodies they have is kind of what's going to dictate where he lines up and if he's on the field for most plays. He was kind of he could be end, and he could also be, if you're running a 4-down lineman, he could be one of the inside too. I think he stays on the field for the most part. I think Jason Jones and Rogers, they're both nose tackles. So again, what do you want to do with the nose? I'm sure there'll be some games where we run against a heavy run heavy team, and you're going to have both those guys inside. And that would be crazy.
I think there's a chance both of them start. One of them at the nose and the other at the D tackle.
And that's crazy because those are big dudes. Like each one of them could be a D tackle. We got two like true nose tackles inside, which is, the experience is what I'm high on. I'm high on the size, the strength, and the experience of our defensive line. It would seem, though, that Mba would be the outside looking in because he has the least experience. Physically, we know he's imposing, but experience-wise, has he done it? He not only the least experience playing in college in the SEC, but also the least football experience. We knew he was a project when we signed him on last year. So does he crack the rotation is what I want to see. And that's more a question for the fall, but what do they do with him here in A-Day? What position is he in? Is he going to be in? He's big enough to be tackled, sure. Is he quick enough to cause havoc on the end? That's going to be something I'm looking out for. I think who Harris is well known. I'm not familiar with Justin Rogers' game. Didn't watch him play at Kentucky. I'm interested to see, of course, where he ends up on this line and if he's a consistent starter there. I know who Jason Jones is. I don't think they keep him off the field. Can Mba really crack the top 4? I think is the big question. So I'm looking to see what they do with him in A-Day.
Mike, your thoughts on the defensive line?
Justin Rogers is going to be a star. I think it's pretty clear he's going to be a star. You pay attention to who this coach mentions. When this coach, who doesn't like singling people out, single somebody out, I'm looking at that guy because that means that guy is not only performing, in terms of what they expect in practice, but he also is fitting the mold of other things that they look for in players in this new regime. So Coach Hugh Freeze has talked about guys not ending up on lists and doing the things they're supposed to be doing and practicing hard. Justin Rogers is getting mentioned in that vein. He's one of a few guys that have been mentioned specifically by this coach in these press conferences throughout the spring. So I'm looking for Justin Rogers, and when they talked about his ability, he said, listen, man, this is a guy that's going to garner a lot of double teams, right? And that's high praise, I think, coming from a coach who has been very hesitant to praise guys based on a lack of seeing their film or You know, when he talked about Jarquez Hunter, what did he say? He was like, listen, I've seen enough film to know he's good.
Yeah.
And he's not making that leap with other guys. Justin Rogers is one of those guys that he made the leap with. Now, I am fairly familiar. I went back and looked at a lot of his tape. I like him, man. I just think he's going to be good. I think he's going to anchor what's going to be a very underrated Auburn defensive line going into the season. A lot of people are not going to know what to expect from this group. Now, you know, B talked about Emba kind of being maybe the odd man out. I agree with them, but I also think they're going to rotate a lot of guys anyway. So while he may be raw, he can be an energy guy that can come in and just provide fresh legs and raw athleticism and just get after it.
Yeah.
Right. And help wear offensive lines down.
Yeah.
Right. And then as soon as they start to wear down, these guys, the jack, whoever gets off on the edge and then rushes the quarterback. The quarterback is all lost. He doesn't know what to do. He throws a duck up in the air. And then DJ James and our guy, Keontae Scott, lead the league in interceptions. That's exactly how that's going to go. I just painted it out all for you guys, exactly how it's going to go. That's the story. I'm sticking to it. Auburn's defensive line is going to come in completely unheralded. And they're going to come in with not a lot of people knowing what to expect from them guys. And they have a chance to really, really throw some people off kilter so that by game 3 or 4, they got to start paying attention to who Auburn has on this defensive line. I like it. I like the addition of Justin Rogers. I think changes the complexion. If he can stay healthy, I like what this defensive line can do throughout the season. The rest of it, you know, you guys mentioned all the names that you guys mentioned, particular B, where you talked about the kind of rotation of guys there at tackle and what Ike said. I agree with that completely. I just think this is a group that has some names that are going to be known by midseason.
Before we move on to the next thing that we hope to learn, I do have a question. What do you guys? I'm interested to see, because we heard some reports. Of course, we were not there, from previous scrimmages, that this D line, sans the edge position, was actually being quite disruptive. So I'm curious to see, when it comes to passing downs, just how disruptive these guys are. Again, because of their size, you expect them to be a force in the run game, clogging up the middle. But it sounds like they're getting after it on passing down. So I'm curious just to see how they look when it comes to passing downs and how much pressure they can apply.
Yeah, I'm wondering what that says about how the O-line is performing.
That's always the thing that bothers me about stuff like that. I'm like, is our D-line really that good? Is our O-line still that bad?
Yeah. Right. And that's always going to be a sore spot for anybody who follows Auburn, is how good is this O-line, and are they getting reps against quality O-linemen?
Right.
Sure.
This is why ones versus ones is very important in my book, because if you're going up against the second string O-line, which we know probably is not very good, we don't even know if first string O-line is going to be very good.
Right.
We know they brought in a lot of bodies, certainly, but we don't know how good those guys are going to be just yet. So yeah, there's a lot of raw athleticism, but if they're not getting the quality reps, this is what I think makes the Alabamas and the Georgias so dangerous. In practice, they're going against the best. Right. And in some cases, they're not going to face anybody better all season than the guys they see in practice.
Right.
So are they developing that kind of competition in practice is something that I always have a question about. So how good are these linemen, these 9 linemen they brought in? 9 of them. Everybody complained, we're not recruiting any offensive linemen. Well, they went out and got a hell of a lot of them. So are they any good? And are they providing quality reps for these D linemen in practice so that they're not going to be shocked? Like, wait, but I beat Tate Johnson in practice. No, that doesn't mean you're going to beat, Bama's offensive linemen in the Iron Bowl, or, LSU, or any of these other emerging teams that are recruiting 5 stars. So, 5 stars need to be testing 5 stars in practice. So, you have to manage injuries. And I know with maximum effort sometimes comes, potential for injury. But how else do you get better? Or how are you tested, and how do you know what you're going to have going into a game? That battle testing has to come in practice. It does, up against the best of the best. And when you have the best on your team, you don't have to worry about what they're going to do against the best when they see them in the game.
Sticking with the defense, particularly along the line, let's talk about edge. And the second thing that we hope to learn is who is Derek Hall's replacement at the jack position, formerly edge. Now, offseason, Auburn added Elijah McAllister, the Vandy transfer. In the offseason, Hugh Freeze has kind of praised McAllister for his leadership. Also, Auburn flipped former 5-star Keldrick Falk from FSU in the 2023 class. A big get as Hugh Freeze and staff closed strong there. When asked about the jack position in terms of them bringing pressure from that position, Hugh Freeze mentioned we got to go recruit. Meaning that there's much to be desired in terms of being able to bring pressure from that position. So I ask you guys, what do we hope to learn about the jack position in A-Day?
Okay, so again, sticking with the theme of noting the guys that the coaches know. Jeremy Garrett has had, he's trying to temper expectations, but he's kind of had high praise for Keldrick Falk, right? And I quote, he says, "I'm telling you, Keldrick Falk, he's going to be it. He's going to be it." Really excited about the way he rushes and the way he progressed since he's gotten here. He's going to be good.
Not to cut you off, hold your thought, but that's high praise coming from a defensive line coach who had a unit who was one of tops in college football last year, right? Yeah, if anyone would know anything about bringing pressure, he would, right?
Right. So I'm like, man, how do I ignore the coach saying that about a specific player if we're talking about this position? I don't know how I ignore that. Because in the little bit that Brian and I have been able to see in the viewing periods, we don't get to see that. We don't get to see if he is him.
Right.
Is Keldrick Falk him? I don't know. We can't see it in them 20 minutes they let us watch. But if Jeremy Garrett is saying, hey, he is him, then I have to go with that. I've been hearing good things from his teammates. Man, it's hard to ignore Keldrick, and this is from a guy that's like, where calling Dylan Brooks. Where is Dylan Brooks?
Yeah.
Where are you, man? It's like, where's Waldo in here for Dylan Brooks? So, he's another guy that I expected to take that step, and maybe he is making some steps, some strides, and he'll be a good depth piece at that position. But man, Keldrick is making waves, and I think that can only be a good thing when a guy is young coming in and he stands out. Maybe that's a sign that Auburn is bringing in that sort of 5-star talent that's really going to test this O-line, right? So if they're going up against him and he's disruptive and they're not facing anybody better than a Keldrick Falk in practice, maybe that's some hope for the level of competition that's happening. So I'm looking at Keldrick and I'm just thinking, he's the guy. He's Garrett's guy. I don't know any other way to look at it at the jack position than say he's the guy.
Gentlemen,
well, we got some options at jack that, again, Mike mentioned them, but Dylan Brooks, but also Wilkie Denard, right? Came in, tall guy, lean guy. Now, it seems like because of his build, he'll have to fill out some before he can be probably the impact player that Keldrick Falk may be built to be early. But it seems to be a matter of when, not if, for the jack position, especially since there's technically only going to be one. They're going to be kind of sharing those responsibilities, outside linebacker and defensive end. So who is going to be? Is it encouraging to hear coach give a true freshman praise this early? Yes, absolutely. It's also discouraging that a guy who was rated 5-star coming out the class that we got by means of Happy Meal. I want to hear more about him. Like I felt like him getting on the field and getting a couple sacks at the end of last season, Dylan Brooks. I thought that was going to be kind of therapeutic for him, because whether or not he intentionally or he intended to come to Auburn, he didn't choose us first. So he goes to Tennessee, or he signs with Tennessee, excuse me. It's a little bit of drama to get released from Tennessee after they have their NCAA thing happen. And then he comes here, but he gets shelved, and maybe he needed to get shelved. I don't know. I don't know where he was in his development, but year 2, I expected to see more of Dylan Brooks, and we didn't. But when the coach leaves, Harsin got fired, then we see some of them. Just a little bit of them. That's not like he got out there and he was Michael Strahan when the minute he hit the field, because he wasn't. But still, it's like we got to see some of him. And I'm still a big believer in the light turns on the most when you get to play. He didn't get to play that much. So how much did the light turn on in those 3 games he got to get on the field? I don't know.
He had some batted down passes, and like he had some disruptive plays, to your point, over the last few games of the season.
So what happened between that and now in this spring to where we are hearing virtually nothing of him? Like that's the question mark I have. Something has either not translated. Maybe it's losing your position coach and losing maybe some forward momentum with the staff, because even if Cadillac was there and he's here, but Cadillac's back with the running backs now. I mean, your what was his name? The defensive line coach last season. I don't know why his name is leaving my mind.
Rock Bellantoni.
He was the ends coach. That's right. It was Rock, but also who was the line coach, the defensive line coach? I can't remember his name. Jimmy Brumbaugh?
Brumbaugh?
Yes.
Brumbaugh? Yeah,
Brumbaugh.
Okay, yeah. So we just like, forget everything about
that. Of all the defensive staff, the guys who he could have interacted with, whether it was Brumbaugh or Bellantoni, who by all accounts is a good, like there was never a bad word spoken about Rock Bellantoni and the connection that he had with his players. So I know we don't like to think, well, it's not that we don't like to. We often don't think about it. We think, here was your rating, here are your physical measurables. Why aren't you good? And there's so much more to that. It's how comfortable are you in this place where you're at with the people that you are around and you're working under and that you're learning from. Did he make some progress with those people? And now that's kind of got reset. Is what is being asked of him now so much different? I wonder what's up with him. I want to see more of him, but I think it's just a matter, again, of when, not if, because whether it's Keldrick Falk or Dylan Brooks or Wilkie Denard or some, conversion, somebody that they transition from another position to this position, I think we have the talent. It's here somewhere. I'm just waiting to see who's going to be.
Are you getting Byron Coward vibes from?
Nah, because they actually put Byron Coward on the field. He just wasn't as good as they thought he was when he got recruited.
Okay, fair enough.
That's different. Like I don't know. Well, I don't know. I don't want to put that on him because I think Byron Coward, the spotlight was too big for him. Hey, you're a 5-star, play like a 5-star was too big for him. I don't know if that's it. I think Dylan Brooks not playing in year 1 was more about Harsin and his expectation and what he wanted to see from players. It wasn't about, hey, you're not it. Why don't you sit down and I'm gonna move you over here because you're not what I thought you were. I don't think that's what.
Byron was more like, it wasn't just about 5-star. I mean, the #1 overall recruit in the country.
Yeah.
And so like I just, in terms of expectation, it's just, when a guy comes in and he's clearly supposed to be him, and then he just disappears and we don't hear anything from him. I get cringy, man. I'm just like, oh man, here's another guy who any other program seemingly would have turned into a star by now. Yeah. And they're just they're dying on Auburn's roster.
And too, you didn't bring in another 5-star right behind Coward either, like you did with Dylan Brooks. So I think it'd be interesting to see how this pans out for Dylan Brooks for sure. Let's grab some of your questions, guys, before we get to the break. We got 3 more questions to tackle. I will stay on the subject of edge. Jonathan Harris responds and says, you can't help but think McAllister is just not it. LOL. Freeze didn't even say if he was good or bad. He just longed for Derek Hall. He really just talked about McAllister as just a guy in the locker room, good guy in the locker room. And I think he is exactly what this coaching staff is looking for, just an extra body so that we can have depth at the position. And I think obviously Falk has the higher ceiling, but it's just be interesting to see just how McAllister performs in this defense. Thoughts, gentlemen?
Yeah, it's clear because of how they've referred to him that he is a locker room maturity piece. And Derek Hall was a 2-1, which is rare. It's rare. It's rare you get a guy who you're our most important player at this position. Maybe if Ekuliota was healthy, I think Ekuliota would have been our best pass rusher. Easily. But Derek Hall was our most mature defender. He was our leader. I chose Auburn. and I want to be here, and I am going to raise the level of professionalism and maturity and competition on this team, at the very least on this side of the ball. You need that. That's important. You need adults in the room, because you have to remember, these are still kids. Derek Hall was an adult in the room, so they're looking for some of that leadership. But it's very rare, I think, in college where your most mature person is also going to be one of your best players. I don't think that's necessarily normal. I don't think that's to be expected. But if you can't get it in one person, split it up. Let's get a hell of a pass rusher on the end, but he's a freshman. He doesn't know what he's doing, but we know he's got potential. Hey, now let's go out and get an adult. Let's go get a grown-up who's going to be able to coach the younger players on how to be better at some things, even though they can't necessarily be the best player in the room themselves. You need that. And I think that's important. And it does have value, especially if your culture isn't set yet and you're trying to reset a culture. Go and find the piece who automatically helps set the tone for the room. Yeah, I think he'll get out there. McAllister will get some snaps. I don't know if he'll be, I still don't, he's not the most talented rusher that we have on the defense. No, but he doesn't have to be. There's other ways to add value.
Byron Bean comments and asks, did you hear that there are linebackers ready to work at the jack position as well? A name that I've heard floated around. Guys, you can let me know if you can confirm or heard this, is Powell Gordon. He actually played a similar role in high school, so it kind of makes sense that he would be a guy that they may be looking at to get some work at the jack position. But can you speak to this, guys?
No, I have not heard this. I have not heard this yet. So
I haven't either.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised if you move somebody from somebody from outside that steps down to the line to rush at times. But
the way that Ron Roberts talks about that jack position and how, what he hopes they'll be able to do it, I'm not surprised that there should be some names, certainly, that
he's not the right size though, guys. Like, he might be quick off of the edge and maybe they bring him in some sub packages. But let me just for context. All right, I'm going to read off the measurables for the guys in the jack room right now. All right. Elijah McAllister, 6'6", 271. Keldrick Falk is
big,
freakish to be a freshman, 6'6", 275, easily the biggest dude in that room.
Yeah.
Brenton Williams, 6'3", 248. Hayden Bryce, 6'3", 234. Dylan Brooks, 6'4", 245. Now you go down here and you look at Powell Gordon, 6'2", 222.
Right.
He doesn't fit the physical profile for it. Right. But I'm not saying he might have the quickness off the edge, but that sounds like sub package stuff, not like every down he's got no pass rusher edge setter guy. I just can't see that being the case. But
no, I'm thinking you put him on the edge when you need some pressure off the of the edge, off the jack position.
You're going small against a team that's not necessarily running a bunch, or it's an obvious passing down, and he's got enough quickness, like, so he's going to be kind of like a hybrid linebacker. Like, I could see that possibly. But yeah, he's not going to be somebody who's going to be in a lot of downs doing that.
For sure. All right, guys. Monty Smoot, appreciate you for this $10 super chat. He says, I love all our running backs, but I do believe Damari Alston will be the best pure running back. Damari Alston reminds me of a faster and quicker Trey Mason.
What does that mean, pure running back?
Like natural receiver.
Yeah, I mean, from meaning like he's not as he's not as like multiple in what he does. Like, there are some people who are just more natural at the running back position, like see the holes differently. Like, they have all of the running back tools. Like, I talk about this with people in regards to the difference between a Tank Bigsby and a Jarquez Hunter, as far as like start and stop ability and like just quickness to make people miss. Jarquez is going to run past you, run over you. Tank is going to, he got a little bit more wiggle to him. Damari has a little bit of both of that, right? Like, he can run over people, he can run past people, and he's got a little wiggle, right? Like, he's probably the most pure running back. From a speed perspective, I think Jarquez Hunter's, I don't know, man, because Bateen pretty fast too. I used to say Jarquez Hunter's the fastest one in that room. But Hunter's got burners, man, and he is a very physical runner. That will, when he gets downhill, very hard to bring down. But yeah, I don't know that I disagree. He's
good. Listen, he's good. He's good.
It's possible that he is probably the most pure running back of the group and not kind of the more hybrid type of situation. But I don't know, man. Jarquez Hunter's he's a lot to try to deal with.
Right. He is. He's got to be him this year. right?
He's got to be him.
He's got to be him this year. Jarquez Hunter does. So, like, listen, I think Damari Alston adds a lot to this running back room. And I believe that it is an ideal situation for Auburn to have somebody like Alston step in after Tank leaves, and then Jarquez Hunter steps up, and then they're creating a pipeline at running back right now that could look good. And then you got the Cobb kid. I mean, really, Auburn could be good in that room for a long time. Yeah. If they keep this going. You bring somebody in after Cobb and you keep that 1-2 punch going at running back, because there's really no such thing as a workhorse running back in football anymore, man. You know, guys get hurt way too often. You gotta stay fresh, and you gotta rotate guys there at that position. So Damari Alston's gonna be good. He's gonna be good. Jarquez Hunter is gonna be the guy in that room, barring injury.
All right, got a couple more before we get to the break. P-Pass says, here's an interesting thought. What if this defense is near supreme at A-Day? Does it cause a panic?
No, I think that you are more at ease if your defense wins the spring game. I don't know if I want to see my defense get shredded in the spring game by what has been reportedly an iffy offense. Because I don't think the offense takes that big a jump on A-Day. Does that make sense? Am I making sense? Like, I just don't think the offense improves that much that we're just like, oh, they were just so good. They were better than our great defense. No, probably means your defense is not good. So I'd be more at comfort seeing the offense have some struggles, but do some good things, but the defense doesn't win the day.
I'm wondering if how would the offense get the better of the defense? If you're telling me that the offensive line lined up and kind of ran it down their throats, I would be okay with that. I would be okay with that. And the reason I'm okay with that means we can control the game, we can control the clock, we can control pace, and we can wear teams down.
But again, that's
scary.
That other teams are going to be able to line up and run it down our throats. A-Day is so difficult for me to get like happy about with a lot of stuff. Like, I want to see ideal scenario is you see a pass rush and a quarterback who avoids that rush and makes a throw to a guy who's blanketed by a DB, but the wide receiver makes a great catch. Because in that scenario, everything was great for all.
Everybody did their job.
Everybody did exactly what they were supposed to do. Like I don't know, man. It's just like, it's so difficult because it's like, our offense is amazing.
It's a win, but a loss.
Yes, great individual efforts, right? You want to say great individual efforts. So, a quarterback throws the ball only where the receiver can catch it.
Yeah, and the receiver comes down with a catch in traffic, but a DB is blanketing him the entire.
But he had no room to catch that ball.
Right.
And then maybe you're just thinking, all right, the next quarterback is not going to make the throw that perfect.
Right.
So it's very hard to gauge. That's why I always lean defense, right? I rather know that they can stop guys from scoring than they're giving up a bunch of points, and because I've never liked Auburn in shootouts.
No.
Well, we haven't really had an offensive identity.
I say it's been a long time since we've been able to.
We were
shootouts.
Yeah, we were
2013 probably was
we were
the last
championship contenders last time we were doing stuff like that. Even with the Cam years, like those were some shootouts at times.
Right. But still, you gave up. The 2010 team gave up more points on defense than any national champion in the history of college football. That's nerve-wracking. That was nerve-wracking to watch.
Oh, there were stressful games for sure. That was a stressful championship year.
Yeah, the 2010 Iron Bowl was the most stressful of them all. 24-0. So the one time the defense wasn't working, it was like, I don't know if they're gonna be able to score enough points to get back in this one.
Right.
And it took some miracles. That pass that Cam made to Terrell Zachary, can we all just agree that pass was not great?
I don't remember what the pass.
Yeah, it was the first pass coming out of the second half. I think you're talking about.
Was it Barron that overran the ball?
Yeah. He didn't play it with. If he had played it right, that was a pick.
It was a pick. It was a pick. He was going the other direction. Yeah. And so there were some very fortuitous things that happened in that game that was just like, hey, they happened, and I'm not mad that they happened, but it's rare for Auburn to just have a bunch of offense at the end of the game to win. Yeah. So. If Hugh Freeze is changing that narrative, I'm all about it.
Yeah.
When was the last time we were like money in the last 3-4 minutes of a game. Like you were like, oh, that's what they're gonna leave us. Oh, okay, we good.
No, there's never there has not been
20.
a scenario probably in the last decade where I was sitting there watching the game and I was like, oh, it's still time on the clock. We're gonna score.
Yeah.
But I have definitely felt that.
You have to
on
go
the
back
other
to
one.
04. You'd have to go back to 04.
I did feel like that in 04. I'm not gonna lie. You know,
Yeah.
Brandon Cox quietly, he came up with some. I mean, mostly because Tuberville's defense was going to have the game gettable for you in the last quarter. But Brandon Cox came up with some decent pass plays to not win it, but get us in position to kick a field goal. Like we won plenty of games by the skin of our teeth in the Tuberville era. And even though our identity wasn't offense at that time, it's just the team seemed prepared and they were executing well. Even though we weren't like Juggernaut's offense, but I guess I haven't felt like we were execution sound on offense to where you could just set your clock by it. Man, even during the Gus era, because we were just unstoppable, but there were plenty of times where it's like, hey man, what are you doing, Gus? Why are we punting 3 times in a row coming out the second half, even though our offense is unstoppable?
Yeah, the third quarter of the national championship game.
Yeah.
Third quarter of the national championship game.
Don't bring me back. Don't bring me
I-
back there. I want to go ahead, Ike.
Gus was notoriously bad in third quarters. Like, let's just be clear. Like, third
Yeah.
quarters were not good for him. Coming out of the half, it just wasn't good, bro.
Mm-hmm. And then the Georgia game that year, even too, where they were dominating, and then inexplicably you let them back in that game somehow, right? So this is why I always go back to defense. I'm just like, I mean, even if you think about that, like a lot of people remember the pass that Cam
Carson was
made.
terrible in third quarters too. Gosh.
Yeah, it's like a curse. A lot of people remember the pass that Cam made to Lutzenkirchen to take the lead. You know what I remember about that Iron Bowl? I remember Nick Fairley getting a sack fumble recovery that stopped them from scoring what likely would have been the game sealing score.
Yeah,
buddy.
Right. Like, I remember
boy.
that. I remember Antoine Carter running Mark Ingram down in a miraculous show of effort to punch the ball out.
Man.
Those 2 plays right there were probably bigger in terms of the outcome of that game than anything they did offensively.
for sure.
Yes.
For sure.
Yes, that's what kept the game close.
It stopped
Right.
the bleeding.
We didn't just shut them down completely on defense. We had some plays go our way.
Oh my
that
God.
off of effort still, but it's not like y'all ain't getting another yard from here. Like we weren't built to do that 2010 defense.
No, Tajarvin Bell literally dumping Greg McElroy on his neck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that
was cool.
Our backup had to come in, and there was no chance AJ McCarron was
crying
going
in.
to lead.
All right, guys.
My least favorite
Man, his
quarterback of the next
girlfriend
Saban
is
era.
hot. So to me, I'm just thinking, even in the better offensive years, it's always been those defensive moments that have stood out to me when they were able to get it done.
Yeah.
Right. So again, it's for Auburn. It's even when the offense is good, it's about defense. You know, that's how I see it.
Two more, and we'll get to the break. P-Pass comes back and says Woodyard can do one thing. He can tackle. I do want to keep an eye on Woodyard. I do want to keep an eye on Woodyard. I'm been eager to see him reach his ceiling or at least take that next step.
They're talking about him.
Yeah, so that's a good thing. So he is a guy that I'm definitely keeping my eyes on.
Yeah.
Lawrence Robertson, he says he's staying up late, catching a weekend tailgate. Good to see you, man. Hope you're well. He asked, anyone looking forward to seeing McPherson kick?
I don't know if I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to
Extra points, baby. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. I'm looking forward to a bunch of field goals.
Not in the spring game. During the season, absolutely. Just because the kicking game has left a little something to be desired the last 2 seasons. Let's be clear. It wasn't just last year. Last 2 seasons, kicking games left a little something to be desired. More so than the field goals, can we please find somebody who can kick the ball into the end zone on the kickoffs? Can we please?
I'm hearing that McGuire is making some strides in that regard. But I'm looking forward to the Carlson era being over.
I mean, it's done. So he's done.
Yeah,
But I'm
it's
just saying,
done.
like, just I want to see some kickoffs go into the end zone. Just
For sure.
kick the ball all the way to the end zone, and then we're not going to see this in A-Day probably, but I just want to see some better kick coverage as well. because our kick coverage has not been great.
Well, yeah, not kicking it in the end zone will expose your kick coverage very quickly, and
right.
The
and
third
that
quarter of
happened.
the national championship game.
Who
But-
was it that
but-
pulled the hammy?
but-
That's
yeah,
what it was.
How many bad things happened in one
I
quarter?
know. I
Pulled the
know.
hammy, man, on coverage.
It's
That was
almost
it.
like there was almost like karma for all the things that was going right for us in games leading up to that moment.
Oh, my
The
goodness.
karma guys was like, all right, guys, law of averages.
Yeah, almost every bad moment that like historically has plagued Auburn, you can point back to the third quarter of that national championship game and be like, it all happened in that quarter.
I can't
Everything.
think of someone in the comments knows who pulled their hamstring on kickoff coverage, and that led to them scoring and getting us right back in. The thing Lawrence Robinson says, is it Cameron Toney?
Yeah, were you answering that question, Lawrence? Let us know.
I don't know if
'Cause
that's-
I don't remember, but I just remember seeing him come up like no.
Yeah, it was sad.
That was rough.
Kelsey
Anyway.
Garner says Jonathan Jones.
No way that was Jonathan Jones.
What's up?
I don't think. I don't.
No way. There's no way that was Jonathan.
Lawrence Robinson says yes.
Oh,
What?
he's saying it was Tony.
It was Tony. Yeah, there's no way it was Jonathan Jones.
No, he would have been. He was he?
No,
even-
he
was-
came
was-
later. He
was-
came
was
later.
playing very well after.
He
Yeah.
came later. You're right. You're right. Listen, guys, you're watching the Weekend Tailgate. We have a few more questions to get to, so we definitely got to get to the break. But guys, share this video on social media, smash that like button, and subscribe to the channel. Let's pause and acknowledge our sponsors.
This edition of the War Report is made possible by our generous sponsors. AuburnSports.com. For news and notes on all things Auburn Sports, head over to AuburnSports.com. Athletic Architects. For young athletes looking to secure their financial futures, let Athletic Architects help you start to build your financial house. Head over to BuildTheHouse.com. And our giveaway sponsor, GWT2 Energy Consulting Services. If you want the best in the business at restaurant logistics, check out our friends at GWT2Energy.com.
Special shout out, as always, to the sponsors of the War Report. Special shout out to those of you who are already members of the War Report. If you want to become a member, we've got great film review stuff coming up for you, even in the off season. Yes, even in the off season, we are cranking out film review. When you join, you can go back and look at the old stuff too, man. So you can go back and look at all the work that we've been putting in during the off season already. Make sure you go ahead and submit your name to be a part of the Green Name Gang. Click the join button and you can make it happen. If you are a member and you want someone else to get the gift of the War Report for 1 month, you can go ahead and do that right now from the live chat. And then YouTube randomly assigns this to somebody else, but it's always a good gift for someone because they need a little happiness in their life. And what better way to make somebody happy than change that name to green right there in the live chat. We're giving away stuff. Always giving away stuff. The cup of greatness today will be your reward. Hashtag get your weight up right now in the live chat, sponsored by GWT2 Energy Consulting Services. We'll be doing that drawing here in just about 20 minutes. So make sure you have your hashtag spelled correctly and you can potentially win the War Report mug. Once again, special shout out to all of the content that we've got going on the Auburn Express, powered by the War Report, on every place where you listen to podcasts. Go ahead and lock us in. Some great audio only content and some rebroadcasts of some of the visual content going on there. Make sure you are locked in with the Auburn Express, powered by the War Report.
And the people in the comments are saying it was Jonathan Jones.
Okay.
Really?
So,
Okay.
hey,
Well,
we'll
I'm take your word for it.
We'll take your word for it for sure.
It's not like I went back and wanted to ever watch that game again and check.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm telling
Be
you.
clear, I have not seen that game ever again in my life.
The only play I've ever rewatched from that was the Trey Mason touchdown. It's because the game ended there in my mind.
Yeah.
After he scored and he gave the Heisman pose, and he was like, right, that's it, game over.
He just that offense deserved. They deserved, man. That
Man, listen,
Oh.
I looked at Mike because we were there. I looked at Mike. I was like,
As soon as he scored, it was like, yeah, he had too much time.
gave
Yeah.
I said the
way
same
too much
thing.
time.
I said the same thing. I was
Way
actually
too
watching at the time because y'all know I worked up at Auburn, so I was in the building. It was a Monday night, right? So everybody goes home because I work nights, so everybody just goes home to watch the game. They go to a bar, they go home. I'm up at work, but the building is dead because everybody's somewhere else watching the game. So I'm up in the executive suite, looking at like a 65-inch television, like pacing around the boardroom table. Like, oh no, that was too much time. It was too much time. It was too much time. Like I couldn't even celebrate. I couldn't even celebrate. Social media was excited. Oh, we're good. I was like, oh no. I wish I could have been happy. I wish the game would have ended right there. Man.
Yeah.
It'd been nice.
Yeah.
Been nice if that was the last play of the game.
All right. Let's move on. All right. Guys, let's get back to the third thing that we hope to learn from A-Day, and that is, what does this Philip Montgomery offense look like at Auburn? Now, obviously, we've had some players who've been interviewed by media, and one notably Camden Brown, who's been getting a lot of love over the spring. He talks about one thing for sure is that there will be tempo and pace with this offense. And he talked about how getting in a huddle was one of the first times he's had to do that ever. And he mentioned how it allowed the defense or opposing teams' defenses to catch their breath. Doesn't seem like if Auburn is able to move the chains that we'll see defenses catching their breath under this offense. So we do know that it will return to Auburn moving fast and moving with pace. But we're talking about this whole RPO situation. And Ike, I'll defer to you. What are you looking for specifically with the Philip Montgomery offense in A-Day?
So, most teams that move with tempo do so after a first down, right? So they're going to get one first down, and then they're going to start to pick the pace up. I think how well we are getting lined up and how well we're communicating as a unit up front is going to be a big thing that I'm going to be looking for, right? Like, are the offensive linemen talking? Is the quarterback doing the talking? Like, how are we communicating things? And then I'm going to be looking to see in that tempo, in that spacing and all that stuff, how well the quarterback and the receivers understand how to make the site adjustments, right? Because it's going to be, how's the defense lined up? Okay, we're in this formation, we're in this, route combination. Do I need to sit this route down or do I need to continue it across the field? That kind of stuff. Like, do I understand where the soft spots are and quarterback and wide receiver on the same page? Because that's what's going to allow the tempo to work. Tempo is not going to work if we can't get lined up right, because that means, if we're, if you're doing tempo, you want to snap the ball when there's still teams on the play clock, right? If you're down underneath 10 seconds on the play clock, that means that either they weren't communicating that incorrectly, they weren't communicating it out to everybody on the field. Like, something's happening where you're not able to move at the pace that you want to. I'm going to be looking forward to seeing that. And then just how well we're able to maintain physicality in the midst of tempo, right? Because a lot of teams can't do both. Can't be physical and go fast. That's traditionally been an issue with a lot of teams with tempo, is physicality with tempo. So I'm going to look to see how they can do that.
Great.
B. Will, Mike G, any thoughts about Philip Montgomery's offense?
So
what are you hoping to see?
Yeah. Well, in terms of what Auburn has done traditionally, I hope to see an improved red zone efficiency, certainly. Auburn has struggled moving the ball. They can move the ball between the 20s, and then when they get inside the 20, all of a sudden, they don't know what to do, right? They don't know how to get the ball in the end zone. Guys aren't making plays. When that field shrinks, play calling has to get better. Guys have to win one-on-one matchups, and it just has not happened. So what I'm hoping is that scheme inside of the red zone improves significantly in terms of keeping teams off balance and scheming guys open, right? Scheming holes in for the running backs. Just teams should be extremely off balance and off kilter in the red zone in this new version of whatever they're putting together. Hugh Freeze specifically said that he was looking for a guy who could come in and improve on his red zone offense. He said, I feel like I do some things well, but I'm looking to bring in a good offensive mind that can improve on what we do in the red zone. He is, giving up play calling for the most part. I hope that that's a good move, for a guy who is a career play caller. And to me, it's just going to be about scoring. Auburn, even under Brian Hartstead at times, Auburn was able to move the ball between the 20s. to the tune in Parsons' first year to 6-2. And remember, they were talking about National Coach of the Year, the SEC Coach of the Year, and all this stuff. 8 games into the season, and then it all fell apart. But the talent is there, I think, to move the ball between the 20s. The coaching has to close the gap, right? And that's where they've fallen short. Is that when it gets tight and it's a chess match between you and that defensive coordinator, how good are Philip Montgomery and Hugh Freeze going to be at checkmate? Is my question. And what does that look like? Is that lining up and running the ball because we're just better than people at it? Or is it a little bit more pass heavy than Auburn has been in the past? Right? Is it finding guys open? Is it fades to the end zone? Is it 50-50 balls to Camden Brown? What does that look like? Can they find the play that they need to find when they need to find it? And is it a variety of things rather than, okay, we keep referencing that 2013 national championship game, but is it a shock to anybody that we saw Auburn score on like a random, it felt random. It felt, when we say they scored too early, I'm like, man, he was like 40 yards out.
Because they were gassed. We had worn them down to nothing. Their defensive line was done.
Right.
And we probably, I wonder if they talked about, hey, listen, if you get inside the 10, go down. Like, I don't think they coached them to do that. I'm not saying that Trey Mason made a mistake. I think they told, just you're running, like you're getting plays. You're getting with it. We were breaking off like at that point because the third quarter was slow. In the fourth quarter, it was like, all right, it was time to turn it back on. 6-7 yard runs. And he just broke it. Like he just bounced off a defensive lineman and ran straight to the end zone. And it was really far out. Like you said, I was like, I thought this drive was going to take some time.
Right.
They just buckled.
My point is, can you imagine the drive where maybe Auburn dinks and dunks them down the field with 5-yard outs and catches over the middle for first down, clock stops? Have we seen that offense?
2017 would be the closest thing that we got to that.
And even then, still, it was pretty run heavy. It felt like I want to see. Is there a version of
that was Gus?
Is it Gus? Right? Is it a version of this offense where the quarterback picks the defense apart in 5-yard chunks down the field, and they just can't stop it from happening? And you add to Ike's point, you add tempo to that, and they just keep going, and then inside the 5, you hand it to Jarquez Hunter because, on those short to intermediate passes that they generally have not been good at, they improve in that area enough that teams have to respect it, and it opens up the field in the reverse kind of way, kind of how people thought the offense would work with Jeremy Johnson taking over for Nick Marshall. Right, the pass game was there because Nick Marshall was such a danger to run. At times, guys would just be wide open down the field on that play action.
Right.
And when Jeremy Johnson took over, it was like, okay, now we have an accurate quarterback who should open up the run game because he is going to throw the ball. He's going to just, he's going to dart you to death. And then when you hand the ball to the running backs, they're going to have plenty of space because guys aren't going to be able to crowd the line, and it didn't work that way. Right? We saw it for a half against Arkansas, I think, thinking, "Ooh, this is it. This is the new Auburn football." Right? I wonder if maybe that version of this offense that we thought they would be with Jeremy Johnson at quarterback going into that is what Hugh Freeze can maybe bring to the Plains. I know people aren't going to like the Jeremy Johnson reference, but I'm talking about the expectation of what we thought it could be with him taking over as quarterback, something a little bit different. He's not a runner, but he can beat you in a different kind of way. Or is there a perfect balance of both where you just don't know what to expect? And I only see that right now with the guys currently on the roster. That only happens if it's Robbie Ashford, right? But if it's TJ Finley, or Holden Garner, can those guys be that guy that makes Auburn good in a way that they have not been good? And that opens up the game for everybody else. I have my questions about what they will. I think it's going to be highly dependent on who the players are,
Right.
and in terms of which direction they decide to go. But they're going to have multiple iterations of this offense based on who is running it. I think, because Robbie Ashford can do some things the other two just can't do.
And competent coaches should put you in that position where it's going to depend who we have, and we'll get the best out of those guys once we see what those guys can do. I think the mistake that was made during Gus's era and also during Harsin's era was, I think this is what I want to do, and whoever gets in here is going to do what I want them to do, regardless if that's the best thing that they can do or not. If that's the best way they can contribute, it doesn't matter. Can you do something else better? Sure, but just do this right here. You don't go after Lamar Jackson because you don't think he can throw the ball as well as you wanted the offense to be throwing the ball. No, that was stupid. That was dumb. He threw the ball better than anybody we had at the stretch he was at Louisville, slinging it all over the field, looking like a pro, winning an NFL MVP. That was stupid.
To trigger me all show, bringing up the mishaps of the past 10 years. Y'all just this is what we're doing today. Go ahead.
You get a guy, the guys that you have.
We watched that too, right? We watched his debut live in Atlanta.
The quickest, I missed the Vic era. I wasn't even that heavy into college football because I wasn't even in college yet. The quickest player I've ever seen on the field at quarterback was Lamar Jackson. I said, unreal. This ain't fair. We were supposed to get him. That was the start of the end of the Gus era in my head. Like, okay, he on the clock now.
When Lamar Jackson got on the field for the first time against Auburn in that Chick-fil-A kickoff game or whatever the hell they were calling it, I remember standing next to Caesar in the Georgia Dome, and we turned to a Louisville fan that was next to us. I was like, "Yo, who is that guy?" Instantly his speed just jumped off. I didn't know. All I know was the number. What was he in college? 13 or something?
I don't remember.
I just remember, or 9. I just remember turning to the kid. I was like, "Yo, who is that? Who is number or whatever his number was?" And the guy was like, "Oh, that's Lamar Jackson. We like him a lot. We think he's got some potential." That's what the guy said to me at the time. Now he wins a Heisman, and then we find out about how Gus wanted to play wide receiver or running back or something. And it was very disappointing. Man, this is a very disappointing stretch of just misses. How many bags can you fumble in a 5-year span, right? All of them. But the answer is all of them.
All of them. The correct answer would be all of the bags.
Fumbled all the bags in 5 years. I was like, man. And it's so funny. Every time you guys bring it up, I look up at Caesar. I'm like, oh yeah, we were there for that. I can't believe how much of this we witnessed crumble in person.
I'm looking at Mike and was like, bro, this feels every bit of like a loss.
Right.
It did.
It felt like every bit of a loss.
I was watching this game. I couldn't even be happy we won the game. I was like, God, we looked awful, man. Yeah, man. Jeremy Johnson threw some of the worst interceptions I had ever seen in that game. I was just like, bro, what? If it wasn't for this random fumble we picked up for a touchdown, I wouldn't have had nothing to celebrate that game. That game was terrible, dog.
He did have a throw to a guy. You guys remember Jason Smith?
Yeah.
He had a throw to Jason Smith.
Yeah, that was beautiful.
That was a touchdown. They called it back for a holding, I think.
Yeah.
But you're right. After the game was over, it felt like a loss to Auburn fans. Yeah. And then the Louisville fans were like, you know what? I think our future's bright. And they lost. And I didn't understand it, man. They just knew how to turn hope into defeat. Right? Wins felt like losses, day felt like night. Good felt like evil. It just nothing was right.
Something you said about watching what our offense does and how we've been so inept in the red zone. The common thread between the last starting with 2018, 3 years under Gus, that's 18, 19, 20, 2 years under Harsin, 21, 22, is that 5-year span, the same offensive lineman pretty much. These offensive linemen, we ran out of the transfers. We didn't land the impact transfer at tackle. Yeah, we did not recruit a true left tackle out of high school the entire time.
After Greg Robinson? Yeah.
No, after Prince Taylor was our last true left tackle that played left tackle. After 2017, we were spent. We basically were hoping that this crop of offensive linemen that had come into the program, these were the guys that They just ran out of eligibility, like Nick Brahms. It's the same group of guys. So some of the guys aged out, true, but it was this crop. We have been deficient at offensive line talent for 5 straight years, 5 straight seasons. I think that's the common thread to red zone ineptitude. That's why, because now you can misdirection me if you've got a lot of space to run, and I can run myself out of position for something else that you have going to work. If I can't, what I'm gonna do? Run out of bounds trying to cover your dude? No, okay, you out of bounds. Fine. You can't misdirection me anymore. You just have to go through me. We couldn't. Our offensive line was not able to do it.
Yeah. I mean, because I think that's what made the 2010 O-line kind of special, right? Was that everybody knew what was happening.
Yeah.
And they just ran up and just, smash mouth, right? Like just head to head, and they won those battles most of the time, just enough for Cam to get loose and for Michael Dyer to get loose, and Ontario McCaleb and those guys. It was a little bit of misdirection, but it was a lot of just, we're going to run this, we're going to hand it to Cam and run this right at you, and you just have to prove you can stop it. Now a lot of that was Cam, but I'm telling you, some of the holes he ran through were pretty big.
That offensive line was legit. That was the last breath of Tuberville offensive line with of course the legendary strength trainer. Wow, why are we going blanks on like Yox? They were ironed in the fires of the Tuberville fire. And,
they were so good, right after they graduated. That was a big reason Russell Wilson went to Wisconsin instead of coming to Auburn.
Right.
He looked at the offensive line and he said, Wisconsin has the more senior offensive line. I'm going to go play there. I don't think they know what they're doing on offensive line at Auburn.
He was right.
He was right.
He was right.
Yeah, he nailed it. That guy won Super Bowls and made a lot of money at the next level because he had foresight, right? He had wisdom. He was wise. He's wise not to come to Auburn.
Yeah. All right, guys. Listen, we got 2 more points to ponder and discuss, but let's get to the drawing. We're giving away a mug courtesy of GWT2 Energy Consulting Services. Ike's ready to draw. Let's get to it, Ike.
Yes, indeed. Somebody's got to win the mug.
Rolling it. No extra time.
Hey man, you had 1 hour and 6 minutes, bro.
Yeah, we gave you time.
That's true.
Quincy K. Hey, Quincy K. If
K.
you're still here, holla at your boys.
Guys, be looking out. I'm gonna grab some super chats before we get into the next point. Amani Smoot says, "I love Robert Woodyard." Well, hell, I love everyone that's on Austin's roster. I bet you do, Amani. We love you too. I love hearing about Robert Woodyard because that means the defensive line is doing their job.
Yeah, I keep saying it. Just pay attention to the guys they mentioned. They're not. This staff is not about naming names for no reason. So whether it's they're a leader or they're a standout on the field, your name being mentioned publicly is something that I think that means something.
Yes.
I think it means a little bit more than it has in the past. So some of the names we hear a guy during the spring and then they just disappear. And it's like, oh, remember when everybody said that? I think there'll be less of that with this staff.
Yeah.
I was looking back through we talked about this a while back. I was writing this article that was going to take a lot of research and a lot of time. I never finished it, but I still got a lot of the research about how our recruiting classes went wrong. And starting with the 2015 or 16 class, I can't remember. Y'all will be surprised how roughly a third of the class never saw the field.
Never even touched the field.
Or never even made it to Auburn. In some cases, we're talking to guys who were the highest rated offensive recruit in the class. Didn't get here. We missed so badly. We missed badly. Somebody, I think there was a spring game where Myron Burton was the MVP of the spring game. Did not make it to the fall. It's been a problem for a while. Hopefully that's not going to be the case.
Yeah, evaluation has to get better. Right. Sure. The only way that happens is the only way a guy wins MVP of a spring game and doesn't make it to the fall is you badly miscalculated.
Yeah,
how he did, and there's just no excuse for that outside of injury or
off field stuff happens too.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. The guy gets deported. Like, how do you win MVP and then don't make it to the fall?
Oh no.
I don't get it.
I don't know.
actually, but
Yeah.
There's a way.
I do know that Quincy K is here.
Hey, look at that. Somebody stuck around to win.
Congratulations,
Go
man.
ahead, man.
Email us business@the.war report, your physical address and name, and we'll get that mug to you. Thanks again for supporting and watching, and congrats on your new mug. Let's grab some other comments. Kelsey Gardner says, hey, guys, let me know if y'all need a research guy. He says, I'm like a walking Auburn football history book, especially the bad stuff.
I will take you up on that.
We'll take you up on that, Kelsey, for sure.
Every week.
For sure. Also, James Barnett says, to your point, Mike G, Freeze knows how to make in-game adjustments. Our last couple of staffs didn't. That should fix our red zone issues.
Yeah, you hope so. I mean, because you know who's really bad at in-game adjustments in conference, to me, is Lane Kiffin. I don't think he's that great at in-game adjustments. They start out great, and then the game plan kind of falls apart, and then it's like, okay, our only plan now is to not have a plan and wing it and just hope for the best. It would be nice to see that they anticipate some end of the game scenarios and that guys look like they know what they're supposed to do in certain scenarios. Situational awareness has been lacking, I think, in this program for quite some time. And the best example over the last few years I have is the game that Auburn lost versus South Carolina.
Which one? The first one or the second one?
Oh man, it's so sad that we don't even know which one. The one where I think both were like 3 picks or something.
That's the first one.
Okay. And to me, it was harder to swallow because at the end of the game, it was like 4th and 8 with like 12 seconds left.
Oh yeah, and Bo danced around in the backfield.
There were 2 options you had. Release the ball quickly and throw the ball beyond the first down marker so that you could at least get the clock stopped if you make the catch. And if you waste enough time, the ball's got to go in the end zone. Right. The only thing you can't do is try to run it in from like 20 yards out.
Right.
You're not going to make it unless you're Cam Newton. And he was not Cam Newton. And I felt like it was a bigger failure of coaching that the quarterback did not understand the situation that he was in.
Yeah.
Like you had to tell him at that point, right? You have to pull your quarterback to the side and you have to say, hey, listen, it's like if you dance
touchdown
around
to check down. That's exactly what you tell the quarterback. Exactly what Hugh
right.
Freeze and company are preaching. We're going to go touchdown first. Come check down. Your check down needs to be a first down.
Correct. That's it. Literally. Thank you. I didn't know how to say that in 4 words. Right? He said it in 4 words. Touchdown to check down. Right. And it's really that simple. I'm thinking sitting at home, I understand this. How does a guy who's played football his whole life not know this going into that one very specific situation? Throw the ball in the end zone or throw it beyond the first down marker, but whatever you do, do it quickly. You don't have any timeouts, and there's like 12 seconds left on the clock. And, that's what I really hope Freeze fixes, that guys are situationally aware and intelligent when the game is on the line, knowing exactly what they have to do. And even if they don't execute it, it would be nice to just see them do it.
Yeah.
Right. It would just be nice to see them do the right thing and let the chips fall where they may. That's a lot easier to accept at the end of the day. We didn't know where the ball was supposed to go.
Yeah.
That was truly a Gus efficiency, though, because of how he coached his offense, which was, I've got to play. Remember, QBs can't even make checks. So how much expertise do you expect them to have with adjusting or reacting if the thing you tell me to do won't work? Well, I don't have a backup because I haven't been taught how to read and react. I've been taught to just execute the command.
That's a good point.
So he couldn't. And even though he wasn't a better offensive coach, with Harsin at the helm, I did think that the overall idea of how to operate improved. Like when TJ Finley got in the game against Georgia State, it worked. Even when Bo was in the game, like late games, we didn't win it. We got down to Penn State's goal line. We actually drove the ball with an opportunity to tie that game.
That's what I'm talking about, though, when I say get in between, like in between the 20s, we've seen it work under multiple coaches.
Well, that was an
After
example where we moved the ball. We actually moved the ball really well that whole second half against Penn State the first time around. We didn't execute the plays well. That's the difference. I thought our ability to operate in a short time frame improved under Brian Harsin, but our talent wasn't there. Like that pass to Kobe for the fade, like that wasn't a good throw.
You're talking about the one that went out of bounds?
Yeah, it wasn't a good throw. Execution.
It was like 5 yards out of bounds, and then people were like, he lost the ball. Like, I was like, wait, what? He lost it because it was out of bounds.
Yeah. So that became my issue. Brian Harsin wanted to make the QBs true QB guys and all that stuff. So it started to improve, but the execution didn't. So
all right, guys, let's get to this last one. Isaac says drove by the football facility Wednesday night. It's massive. Do you know if they have tours for the public?
The question is, the answer to this question is they're scheduled, and they do them at certain times. So if we hear about them doing, I certainly will let you hip you guys to that. But it is a beautiful facility, man. I don't know how else to say it. Pro Day was a great chance for them to show that thing off to the scouts and to get people talking. Right now there's an arms race in the SEC that is facilities. And Georgia, Bama started, when they started winning championships, one of the first things they did was upgrade their facilities. Georgia has built top-notch facilities. When you walk into these weight rooms, I'm telling you, it is seeing the old and the new is something completely, it's mind-blowing what they have access to.
And it's paying dividends in recruiting.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's impressive when you walk in. It is impressive to pros when they walk in.
Yeah.
Especially if you were a recruit that came on an official visit and saw the old facility, and then you come back and you see the new facility, and you're like,
"Whoa!"
Oh,
right?
Okay,
They built
with a new staff.
They built
a whole new approach and everything.
Well, listen, I interviewed with the Atlanta Falcons for like a video job, and their practice facility is up in Flowery Branch, and it is like a football compound. When you go in there, security. Who was the coach at the time? I think his name, not Dan Reeves. I forgot the guy's name.
Moore?
Jim Moore. Yeah, like he walked in while I was talking to the dude, and he was like, "Oh, you must be Michael." And I was just like, "Oh man, the head coach knows some random video guy who's coming in." Right? I thought it was weird, but that's how tight things were there. That's how it was run. I was very impressed by the facility, and Auburn's gives me that vibe when you walk in. When you walk in, man, I'm telling you, you got a national championship trophy in the case right to your left. And, you got this massive video board, and you can see through to the indoor field. And then they got a 100-yard outdoor field, like a couple of them right outside of that. And it's all turf. And man, I'm telling you, it is mind blowing. Back in the day when I was filming, weather would derail a practice. Because the indoor facility at the time was 40 yards. Right. Listen, no act of God will derail an Auburn football practice anymore.
Well, let's not. Okay, so they say that about the Titanic, right? So let's not challenge God with anything like that.
Stop it.
For real.
Yeah, the indoor facility, the indoor facility is not going to crash into an iceberg.
Rainproof ain't God-proof. Rainproof ain't God-proof.
This thing is solid, man. I'm telling you, they are going to get a practice done. And it sucked because lightning in the area, and there just wasn't enough space to operate in that indoor facility the way they wanted to. And so, when they finally, extended it to 100 yards, that was a big deal. But now this is something completely different, man. Even the way they film the practices is so different. It's not guys climbing up in towers anymore.
Right.
It's crazy. The stuff that we did manually, it's the place is so automated. They know everybody who walks through that place. I can't say enough about that. Was $90 million well spent. Really well spent.
Guys, let's get to it. Will we learn from A-Day if there is a contender, a true contender for the QB1 job going into the fall?
I don't know, man. I think it's going to be difficult to evaluate. I think it's just going to be interesting, similar to what I talked about with the defensive line. It's going to be interesting to see how they rotate snaps, like how are they giving the snaps, who's getting the snaps, and then just how they operate with whoever the personnel is. Like, I'm less concerned about who's the first quarterback in or who the person is throwing to than I am with how they operate and what the pass looks like when it comes out of their hand, right? Like, because in my mind, all right, cool. That dude knew what he was doing. The pass looked good, but the guy he was throwing to wasn't where he was supposed to be. Can we be able to see that kind of stuff? I understood what I was supposed to be doing on this play. I was getting everybody lined up properly, but this guy dropped the pass. Okay, that's still a good quarterback, though, right? He understood where he needed to go with the football. He understood what he needed to do. I'm just interested to see grasp of concepts and then where am I going to go post snap with the football more so than and hopefully it's a pretty even distribution so that we can evaluate them equally, right? Because again, I just didn't feel like last year Holden Gardner even got a shot. 2 years ago when we're sitting here talking about, Demetrius Davis and some of the other guys that were on that roster whose names are escaping me. We just never saw him get in the game. We're just like, I don't even know what to think of the rest of the quarterback room because we're not seeing him. Bo Nix played 80% of that game. I was just like, this is stupid. Like, we're not getting a chance to see what we got in the room this year with all three guys supposedly having a true opportunity. I want to see all three guys out there on the field. I want to see them operate the offense for a consistent amount of time so that we can understand what we've got.
I'm going to look at it from a different perspective. I want to see what rotation these quarterbacks get against the number one defense.
Yeah.
I think that's what I'm going to be looking at the most, right? Because do I want to see Holden burn up the third string defense? What do we glean from that? Nothing, right? I want to see if they give him a shot versus Keontae and DJ James and those guys.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of what I was when I was saying earlier, like there's a way that you can have an MVP of the game that ends up not being there. It's in that scenario. Like you're burning it up against guys who will never see the field on the opposite side too.
Fair enough. Yeah.
And it's like, oh yeah, you had a great game, but you were playing against nobody. Yeah, of course you looked good. Right. Like if Sean Jackson comes out, no disrespect to Sean Jackson, but if Sean Jackson comes out and he runs for 150 yards against the third string defensive line, I'm not saying to myself, we got a player in Sean Jackson. Who was he running against? I don't know. Right. Like, so there is an opportunity for that stuff to still happen. I think the what you hope to see, to your point, Mike, is that we see guys who we hope to get playing time in the fall playing against guys who will get playing time in the fall.
Right.
Because otherwise, what am I looking at here?
Right.
So we do. I think we've all agreed that Hugh Freeze is going into the transfer portal. I'm not sure this set of quarterbacks remains at Auburn going into the fall. I think at least one person is going into the portal. The question is Hugh going into the portal to find his QB1, or is he just going into the portal to find? I mean, he made a mention to the media that he's always looking to bring in guys who can help them do what they need to do in the fall at each position. But is that actually a necessity going into the summer as it pertains to the QB1 position? I think that remains to be seen. But
yeah, I mean, Robbie Ashford's injury, I think, possibly throws a wrench in the evaluation of this whole thing.
Yeah.
So that's going to be something that we need to keep an eye on. Hugh Freeze said Robbie Ashford had his best practice of the spring, and then they held him out a couple practices because of his sore shoulder. His shoulder was visibly sore during the media viewing period that we saw. And
this last one?
Yeah, I mean, last Monday. I mean, B and I were out there literally standing 10 feet from him. And I don't think there should be any issue reporting that because it was just pretty evident to everybody who was standing there.
And Hugh Freeze said it himself.
Hugh Freeze said it in the press.
Yeah, right. Like, hey, well, he said it before we went out that he was dealing with a sore shoulder the previous week, right? But it was apparent that it was still bothering him when we went out to go watch practice. So I am going to be interested tomorrow to hear how they managed that this past week. In terms
is that a potential question of yours?
Yeah. Like, how did you manage his shoulder? I mean, listen, you said it was sore and that he was hurt. Because in my mind, how hurt is it, and is it worth putting him out there? Are those even quality reps to evaluate if his shoulder is that hurt?
But
You
does
know?
he want to? Does Robbie want to not take those reps? Like, hey, I'm in this competition. Like,
But that's up to the coach to make him understand that he's not going to fall behind. Like, you know how they say, like, some coaches try to assure players, you're not going to lose your job to injury.
but players know that's false.
Right, yeah. So the coach is going to have to make him feel some kind of way about missing those reps, and he's got to make that calculation about, do I stay out here? Do I tough this out? Or is it actually in my own and the team's best interest that I rest this shoulder and then jump back into this competition truly in the fall? Or in the summer. So I have questions.
I don't know how you do that other than just lie to the kid. I don't know how. Oh, son, you'll be fine.
Yeah. We've seen enough of you on tape to know. You're one of the best quarterbacks we've ever seen, right? Yeah. So I'm with you. I just, he's got to make that. I mean, I think that's part of the decision that he has to make as well too. You see in every level of football, there are disagreements about between player and coach about technically being medically cleared to go, but then the player's like, something doesn't feel right.
Right.
And you have to listen to your body to some extent. And it can really turn into a point of contention between coach and player.
Yeah.
So I want to hear how they managed it. How do you manage, this guy has an aspect of the game that has nothing to do with his arm. Right, he can just flat outrun people. He's an athlete, and there are not a lot of athletes like him playing quarterback. So you still have to evaluate him based on that as well, and that's missing here because you never know how effective it's going to be if you can't hit him. So to some extent, you have to go based on what you've seen on tape because he does have tape. He now has tape at the SEC level of him running against SEC defenses, and then figure out whether that's going to be the best you have in the fall or not. So the portal, they're going. I think they made it clear, guys. They're going to the portal. They're going to the portal to at least try to get a quarterback.
Yeah.
Whether that guy is going to come in and provide something substantial enough to challenge the guys who are already here is the question. Some people think it's a given that anybody that they bring in is going to compete, and I'm not so sure.
So I was thinking about this, right? Something that Hugh Freeze said last Monday in the presser was specifically noting that the progress with the quarterbacks may have been hampered because they had not run RPO up until this point. He's like, that's something we're trying to teach them, and they don't have a lot of experience doing RPO. All right. We've said, okay, maybe there isn't a lock. Just a guaranteed lock quarterback that's going to lose a job in the spring and jump in the portal and then be better than guys who have been here and gone through a spring with this staff and started to learn a playbook. And I say playbook loosely because I would love it if these are just two mad scientists in here coming up with something new every week for practice. I actually like that idea.
Yeah, but I can weigh on this too, but you really only got one quarterback that can do both the R and the P and RPO, right? Like,
well, no, it doesn't mean that just the quarterback has to be running. It's like it's an option to either hand off or pass it quickly.
Yeah, for sure.
Or run it yourself. Like, there's not a situation where you can't run an RPO play and TJ Finley can't get 4 yards on that because you're on 3rd and 3. Like, it's still a viable offense, even for guys who aren't better runners than they are passers. So if they're looking for a guy who has run that offense, we're saying, well, how do you get ahead of 3 guys who are here in the spring? Experience running RPO is something that would absolutely put a transfer portal quarterback in the mix directly, if not directly ahead of 3 guys who have not run the type of offense that they are trying to run. If they don't get just aren't in the habit of running RPO, then that answers the question of, well, who do you go and get where it makes a difference? That's who you can go and get.
But if it's not an athlete at quarterback, then to me, how good your offensive line is factors into whether that person can be effective or not.
Oh, man, that's good. That's going to factor in whether it was a good runner at quarterback or not. Because
but you can neutralize again. But if you have a Robbie Ashford type talent there you can neutralize a lot with a guy who can just win his one-on-one matchup, right? I guess is what I'm saying. Like if they have to respect him as a runner and they don't, these other guys, to me, it comes down to, if you're not going to have that guy, the guy you're going to go out and get is going to be more of a P than an R, right? Then your line is going to have to do the job, not only in pass protection, but in the run game as well, too, to make it viable. And that may be stating the obvious, right? I just think it becomes even more important, does it not, that the line is as solid as can be for that guy if it's holding, kind of like we're saying, like, hey, man, holding can be great, but we don't believe he can be great behind a shoddy offensive line. And there are some guys who can find a way to get it done, and Bryce Young is a bad, I hate it because I feel like I feel like he's like transcendent talent.
He is.
But you understand what I'm saying? He is one of those guys who got it done behind a shoddy offensive line.
Right.
Yeah.
A really shoddy offensive line. And I don't think Mac Jones could have been good behind that offensive line.
No,
No.
he wouldn't have.
I don't think Mac would have been good behind that offensive line. And I think he was a really good quarterback. So,
I mean, most people struggle with a bad offensive line. Most
Yeah.
you're exceptional. Again, they spoke to how good Bryce was.
But that's the example that we're left with from Auburn. So that's why that is the biggest worry in my head if we're talking about a guy who is more P than R.
Yeah.
Well, let's more than drop that topic because I think we can get into it a little deeper.
Yeah. Are you P or you R? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah. Y'all handle that.
I'm surprised I can make an immature joke now. I set it up. I lobbed it up for her. It was like bump set. No spike. All right.
No parts of it.
Are
we going to see some dudes?
about it. He's taking, look at his face. He's thinking about it. It's in his head.
Are we going to see some dudes at the wide receiver room? Are we going to finally get to see Camden? And I'm going to throw Fairweather into this as well.
Heather Dinich says no. Heather said
come to A-Day patient. I'll get out.
Camden Brown, Jay Fair were not even practicing the day Heather Dinich was out there.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
That's true.
So two of the best receivers we have weren't even out there on the field.
That's
just
fact.
for clarity's sake. So whatever.
I think we've got a couple guys at wide receiver. I do.
Who are you looking forward to looking at? Who you want to see get some opportunities?
I want to see Camden Brown and Jay Fair, the two guys that I just named, because number one, Camden Brown has been praised by two different staffs before we ever saw him on the field. But we knew that the situation with Robbie, his shoulder, and the offensive line by the time Camden was starting was dire. It was over. The passing game had pretty much taken a nosedive for the entire season by the time Camden Brown was getting regular snaps. We don't have tape of him being his best self because he has not had a situation where the quarterback was able and healthy enough to get him the ball, where an offensive line would give a quarterback time to sit back there and give him the ball.
And he wasn't even here last spring. He wasn't here for the spring game.
Right.
So.
He didn't get here until May. So we haven't seen Camden Brown have the opportunity to show his potential. The same for Jay Fair, of course. What these wide receivers can and can't do, like Ike said, the situation that you hope you see in A-Day is the quarterback made the right read, made a good throw. The defense was covering perfectly, and the wide receiver just does something exceptional to make the most of that play. That's how we'll know if we got to do. Like, oh man, DJ James was all over this man's back, but I don't know. He came down with that. That's amazing. Now I'm hyped about the catch that he just made. If he can make those types of catches, if Jay Fair can catch an easy, we saw a lot of this with Ryan Davis, just a 4 yards up stop route, turn, jets. I want to see that from Jay Fair. Like I'm very excited at the prospect of having somebody who can just quick catches, turn them into big gains. Whether or not we see that is still going to depend on the quarterbacks, because what's going to be under most review here is operation.
Right.
Operation is the thing that these quarterbacks do not have a strong sense of with a new offense. I'm going to say new offense because, again, I still think all this is it's all in flux. I want to see operation more than anything. And I think that's probably what the coaches will be looking for. If we get some splash plays that result from proper operation on a drive or two, fantastic. operation from the quarterbacks will be the first priority. Whether or not we get to see these wide receivers' potential, I think is going to kind of be secondary, unfortunately. I am not expecting a bunch of big plays because I think operation will be what's getting worked on here more than, all right, well, we definitely need to put up 30 points. Let's go. I mean, they'll be trying. Sure, they'll be trying. But
can we agree that tight ends are part of this conversation as well, too? Has anybody seen Fairweather's tape? It's incredible.
Yeah, that's what C said. He said
that's what I mentioned. I mentioned.
Yeah, like, I mean, his tape is incredible. Incredible speed over the middle. Great hands. He seems to run that seam route really well. If the quarterback can deliver an accurate football, he's catching it.
Mhm.
He's catching it, and he's stiff arming somebody, and he's getting another 10 yards after that. So I'll be interested to see if they give him some opportunity. These guys some opportunities in that regard. But to Brian's point, yeah, we really have only kind of touched the surface as it pertains to Camden Brown.
Okay.
We barely scratched the surface. Coy, I still think, has a ton of potential as a experienced guy, one of the more experienced guys in that room. And then I'm looking after that, man. Javaris Johnson somehow to me always gets lost in the conversation, but he had a really good season last year compared, all things considered.
Yeah, he is.
With the
pass catcher.
And then beyond that, this is where I just kind of slide down to I want to see Jay Fair. Because guys like Dawson, in my mind, that you've had your shot, you've had opportunities to make plays, and when those opportunities have come, he's come up short. Right, Birmingham Bowl. I mean, there's times where the balls just hit you in the hands, and it was like, come on, man. Yeah, remember when we interviewed Ben and Devin and Courtney and those guys all talked about, hey, our opportunities were limited, so we knew when the ball came our way, you got to catch it.
Yeah,
no excuses. You got to make the catch because your opportunity, you're not going to get more opportunities just because you missed on the opportunities that you had. And I've been looking for that kind of attitude from Auburn's receivers. Opportunities are still limited, man, for those guys. And I wanted to see them make plays in the limited opportunities that they had so that ultimately fans could look back and say, hey, if they got more opportunities, they would be even more productive. So we don't know that. We can maybe say that about Camden, and we can probably definitely say that about Javaris Johnson.
Yeah.
So, there's a group of guys here that their window is closing. You know how we talk about Dylan Brooks, and we're like, all right, man, if he ain't emerged yet, when is he going to come? I feel like there's some guys like that at wide receiver where it's like, all right, I know there haven't been a ton of opportunities, but if you're clearly not one of the top four, now it's maybe time to start looking at some of these younger guys that have flash potential. I will probably remember because he's a film guy. There was a pass that Robbie threw to Jay Fair kind of over the middle. He made a guy miss. He got dangerously close to scoring.
It's a Western Kentucky game. It was a pass. It wasn't over the middle. It was actually to the left. It was a little screen.
The left, yeah, right. And he made a move, and he kind of flashed his athleticism and what he can do in traffic over the middle. And I think that those plays will be really, really important and kind of an underrated play for Auburn this fall. If you have a guy who can just catch the ball over the middle 5 yards, make a guy miss, get another 3-4 yards.
Yeah.
And kind of eat your way to a 500-600 yard season. And then if you got 2 or 3 guys that can do that, plus a guy who is a dude, that's how your quarterback throws for just over 3,000 yards.
Yeah.
But you need multiple guys who can make a guy miss and get those yak yards. Yards after catch, man. Catch the ball, make a guy miss, get another 5 yards.
Yeah, for sure.
Over the course of a season, it adds up. But the guys who go down as soon as they get tackled, man, really hurt quarterback stats.
Got to put the ball in the right place too for them to do something with it.
That's right.
Facts, right? And so this is where I'm like, all right, but you also need guys who can make adjustments to the ball, and you're not going to get a perfect ball every single time,
right?
So I want to see accurate quarterback play, but I want to see receivers that can bail a quarterback out. Get the ball anywhere in my vicinity, and I'll find a way to make the catch.
Yeah.
Does Auburn have two of those guys in this receiver room right now? Camden Brown seems like he could be one. Nick Martiner could be the other one in terms of catch radius.
Sure.
Right, just in terms of pure catch radius, right? Like he's tall and he's got decent speed, but is he going to be a guy that can just throw the ball up to, and he'll come down with it? I don't know. Have you noted Martiner's hands? I haven't had a chance to note how his hands were, but one of the receivers, Darvin Adams, had remarkably good hands.
He did.
Yeah,
Very underrated receiver.
Yeah, just remarkably good hands. And, when he had to catch the ball away from his body, he was solid.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering who that guy is going to be for Auburn. We saw Camden Brown high point of football from Robbie Ashford against LSU. And back at the end zone, it wasn't a perfect throw. It was just good enough.
Right.
And he went up and brought it in for the catch. And I'm just wondering, who's going to be that guy with the hands of gold? Who's going to be the Golden Gloves this year?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
In that room. Again, according to Heather Dinich, none. We got bronze gloves in there.
Bronze.
But I think there's the potential for a possession type guy like Jay Fair to be that guy with the golden hands.
Well, we will definitely see for sure. Let me grab some comments, guys, before we get out of here. Blake Robinson, appreciate you watching with us. Good to see you. Remember, just because Holden may have a great A-Day and may potentially be the MVP, doesn't mean that he'll be the starter in the fall.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it's meaningless, though. If he has a good A-Day, I don't think it's meaningless.
Yeah. But again, I think we knew that this competition will go into the fall for sure, even if you do show a good strong showing in the A-Day game. Mm-hmm. Lawrence Robinson says having big body receivers helps in so many ways. I'm curious how the size of our wide receivers affect our perimeter blocking for running backs as well.
Yeah, I mean,
that's a good question.
It's about better than anybody, Ed. Blocking is really more about desire than anything else. You have to want to be physical. Just because you're big don't mean you want to be physical. So hopefully they've got that mindset.
Yeah. Some people don't like contact.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's true. Which is weird in football, but okay.
Trevor Thornton says, War Eagle, see y'all Saturday. It's his birthday.
Hey.
Happy early birthday, Trevor.
Yeah.
Enjoy
your birthday
day.
I promise you an Auburn win on Saturday.
Oh, man, come on.
Auburn will win.
I mean, he ain't lying, but still.
Right. It wasn't in doubt either. Erica Randy says she's looking to see Amari Kelly as a wide receiver on Saturday. Brandon comes back and says Martiner wants to see him. So got some people naming some names. I am interested to see, because you guys have saw Martiner up close. He's a giant. But I'm curious to see how he looks in the orange and blue and how he looks in this offense and whether or not he gets some opportunities.
He can really make a name for himself this A-Day.
Yeah.
Right? He can burst on the scene as somebody who you can't ignore this A-Day.
Ed Darby says the wide receivers will be more productive because this offensive staff will hopefully teach the QB and wide receivers to abort plays when defenses are playing soft.
Yep. That's the reading portion. That's the mental portion of the game that our wide receivers and quarterback didn't have to run from 2013, really, I guess since 2010, honestly. When it was 2009 when Gus first got here to when he left. And then, of course, Harsin was trying to teach these guys how to read and react, but the roster was not good enough to be patient about that. So will they get to teach? And will these wide receivers and quarterbacks get the time to grasp these concepts and put it together by A-Day? Maybe not, but
you know who was really good at this last season was Stetson Bennett, and what's that receiver that had
McConkey?
Yeah, like they were really good at that. Whenever they were playing him some kind of way, Stetson Bennett was just like, "Really, y'all gonna give me this?"
Mm-hmm.
Every single time. It was incredible to watch teams do it week after week with him. I don't know why, and I'm not saying they didn't give him the respect. But it kind of felt like it was like, man, are y'all really not going to guard this dude? How many teams does he have to burn?
He took a step back last year a little bit. So they were
little
wiser
bit.
to it last year than they were the prior season. Sure.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he played hurt too, didn't he? Over the last couple
Yeah,
games,
he did
Yeah,
get
he
injured. He did get
yeah,
injured.
he played hurt over the last couple of games. It's still 8. I wonder if any of these quarterbacks can develop that kind of thing with these receivers, where the receiver will look at the quarterback and like, you see how they playing me? We do this in practice all the time.
Yeah.
It's a couple years though.
Yeah, give them that look and then just go eat.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Walker Show says, are there any receivers that may be encouraged to seek opportunities elsewhere?
Yeah,
Encouraged,
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, after the spring is over, like, yes, there will be some. You should pursue other opportunity conversations,
I think we lose at least 2.
if not
So,
3.
well, yeah.
Yeah, I'm going with 3. I think 3 of these receivers will be gone after the spring.
Because Sori's not even here yet, right?
No.
Right. So
Yeah, all these guys can't play.
I mean, you have so many guys vying for that slot position anyway. So that's an obvious area you can look at for sure.
Yeah, there's too many. There are too many people, Caesar, in that room with portal opportunities.
yeah.
With freebies. There's too many people in that room with freebies, I think.
Yeah, for sure. So we will definitely keep an eye out on that. Guys, great conversation. Ike, tell the people what they can expect in about another week or so after spring practice is done.
You can expect your boy Ike Jones to get busy on this film. We're going to go out there and we're going to dissect it every way possible. We're going to look at every throw. We're going to look at every running back rep. We're going to look at every defensive lineman. I might just watch the film on every player. I don't know yet. But we're going to go out there and we're going to put in the work on this film so you guys can be the most informed fan base out there. But you got to be a member to be a part of that. Go ahead and get your membership status up and running, because after spring game, it's full speed ahead. You can gift memberships to other people who might not have the ability to do that right now, but go ahead and get that thing cranking out there. We appreciate those of you who are members who continue to do this for our folks out there in the community. And we're going to keep giving them a reason to come back after that first month. We are the Auburn Express, powered by the War Report, on all our pod platforms. Make sure you're listening to that. There's a lot of audio only content that's available for you guys out there. And if you didn't get an opportunity to win something today, you can head over to thewarreport.com, head over to that shop, grab you some gear, and you will thank yourself for having some of the flyest gear out there available to Auburn fans right here from you guys at the War Report.
Yep.
We want to thank y'all for hanging out with us. Do us a favor before you get out of here. If you enjoyed this conversation and were involved with it, share it so that other people can find it and comment on it and vibe with it as well. Smash that like button. Hit subscribe if you're new to the channel. I mentioned Facebook and Twitter earlier, but we're also on IG at The War Report or TW Report on TikTok. That's it for now, guys. We will definitely catch you tomorrow morning for the morning drop. Definitely hang out with us there. But until then, enjoy the rest of your weekend. And as always, War Eagle.
War Eagle.